Alright, hello, and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today I want to have a bit of an uncomfortable conversation about Ethereum. Okay, now this is the third time of showing this chart on this YouTube channel, and this chart says that we are likely going, if we repeat the fractal from 2016 to 2017 for Ethereum, then we are likely going to go straight up to about $8,000 or $9,000 per Ethereum, and that could be as soon as November. Okay, maybe even before. It could be October. So this suggests Ethereum is mega bullish. And whenever I speak to anyone about Ethereum, they're always super bullish. It's also no secret I have a core ETH long position, and it's also no secret because I publicly did this on the channel that I opened a long, as you can see, and I did this publicly based on Bitcoin 60-day cycle low on this channel. So I am long Ethereum from a trading standpoint. I am long based off of a core holding, and yet there's an uncomfortable truth that I'm going to try to show you today that I don't see people talking about too often. So first of all, did you know that back in 2014, July 2014, Ethereum had a pre-mine of around 60 million ETH, okay? And then you keep going, that's worth 272 billion today. The tokens were sold for a total of 18.3 million, while 12 million were kept aside for early contributions to the Ethereum Foundation. Okay, now keep Ethereum Foundation in the back of your mind. At 72 million ETH, this total accounts for around 63.7% of Ethereum's current total supply. Okay, so 63.7% of this coin was pre-mined. So just let that mull for a second. How do you feel about that? If I said to you, I've got this exciting new project I want to talk to you about, this new altcoin, and I said, oh yeah, 63.7% of it's been pre-mined already. Wouldn't you say that sounds like a trash coin? I think you would, right? So anyway, but that's the fact. This is just a simple, this is fact, okay? Let's keep going. What else do we know to be fact about this coin that also makes for an uncomfortable truth?
Very right, fairly quickly. And
but you didn't short it, did you?
So I did get the Ethereum Foundation to sell about 70,000 ETH, like basically at the top, and that's doubled our runway now. So
they did, in fact, pre-mine 60-odd% of this coin. They did also, in fact, dump it at the top. And again, notice he says the Ethereum Foundation. Okay? So again, uncomfortable truths. Like I said, I have a long core holding. I have a trade that is long currently as well. Okay, but this is a truth and that is a truth. Let's keep going with some more truth. The truth of the Bitcoin network is protected by proof of work and is unalterable by stakeholders for the first time ever. You cannot change it. You cannot modify it. Proof of work, I hear this saying often, proof of work doesn't work. Yes, it does, because you can't change it. That is literally what it was designed to be. Alternatively, the truth on proof of stake, which of course we have coming up just around the corner for Ethereum, they are going to be switching from proof of work to proof of stake when this merge is complete. And the truth on proof of stake is it's controlled by the stakeholders, the same people that control all the current truth. Change is necessary. So this is another uncomfortable truth. When Ethereum completes its merge and is completely operating on proof of stake and has completely left behind proof of work, then it will be much closer to fiat than it will to hard currency like Bitcoin. And this makes me feel uncomfortable. Okay, all of the things I've shown you so far make me feel uncomfortable. Does it mean that we won't go to 8K in the short term? No, this is on the table. That's why I'm long. Do I think this is the most likely path? No, I think maybe we roll over and then go. But throw it down in the comments. Are you okay with this pre-mine? Are you okay with them dumping on the top to raise funds as part of this Ethereum Foundation? Are you okay with them switching to a proof of stake in the name of being more scalable or being more environmentally friendly, when really all this does is give the Ethereum Foundation more control, make it more like fiat in the sense that the people closest to the funds have the most control and the most say, and make it so that they can fork the chain at will and make updates at will without having to go through a 95% consensus like Bitcoin? Are you okay with that? I've got a lengthy clip here, 10 minutes, but I think I'm going to edit a lot of it out because Michael Saylor does repeat himself quite a few times, but he just kind of illustrates this point even further. So I'll play this now.
Tell you, I mean, if you want to know, look, the issue with ETH is if you want a decentralized network, you have to actually install a protocol, and it has to run unmolested, unmodified for 5 to 10 years before you can conclude that it is decentralized and censorship resistant. And ETH hasn't even got there yet. The clock on ETH won't start until after. The problem with ETH is after the merge, they've still left all sorts of questions. What's the issuance schedule going to be for the next 1,000 years? What are the staking rules? What are the, there's so much, there's such an ambitious technology agenda that the protocol never stops mutating. And the problem with an ever mutating DNA structure is you generally end up with a monstrosity, right? You can't keep mutating the protocol for obvious reasons. So ETH isn't really something that you could have an opinion on yet because they haven't stopped mutating it. If I had to have an opinion on what I see in front of me, what you see is this is something that was sold as an ICO to the public. The Ethereum Foundation controls it. It's an investment contract, right? It's been hard forked multiple times, and the hard forks aren't just hard forks to fix a fatal bug. They're hard forks that change the underlying monetary protocol, and the protocol keeps materially changing, and it is never stabilized. Right now, you've got an ETH mining constituency, and every year for the past 5 years, they've had a difficulty bomb to destroy it, and they keep putting it off. Well, who's they? The miners don't want to destroy themselves. So who's controlling the network? Not the miners, right? There's a small group of developers that control what the network is, and that's a company. It's a software company, and ETH is an equity, and they've sold it to the general public, and they keep changing the protocol. Hard forks are just software upgrades that are mandatory. So it's not a decentralized network. It's not a commodity. There's no reasonable person that understands the law or ethics could conclude that Ethereum is a commodity, right? You can't. Gary Gensler doesn't think it's a commodity. You can read his videos on it, right? It passes the Howey test as an investment contract. The question you got to ask yourself is who makes the decisions and what's the basis they make the decision, right? It doesn't help to vote on these things either, by the way. Like if you vote on them, companies vote on things. If the shareholders get a vote, that makes it a security, right? The only way to establish a commodity in cyberspace is someone has to follow Satoshi's example. The example is you create the software, you give it to the world with no economic motive, right? And the protocol is set forever and no one changes it. So if you're going to change it, like you could justify fixing a bug, but if someone hard forked Bitcoin to be 42 million coins instead of 21 million coins, or they hard forked it to change the issuance schedule, right? All of a sudden, you've centralized it. You reset the clock. It looks like something which is controlled by an entity, and now you have to wait a decade to figure out whether or not it's stabilized. And so I think the real issue with ETH is a decade after they finish changing it and screwing with it, you can have an opinion on it. But it doesn't look to me like they'll stop hard forking it for the next 3 years. Like the plan is to keep hard forking and hard forking. I'll give you a question. You stake your ETH. Okay, well, what's the yield schedule on the staked ETH for the next decade? And then when can you get your staked ETH out?
I don't know the answer to that, but I guess the question...
What? Nobody knows it. Nobody knows the answer to that.
Yeah,
there is
fair.
no answer to that. Now, so here's the problem. Right? If
Sound like you're saying there is no second best, Michael.
What I'm saying is you have to go back to first principles when you design a digital commodity. It needs to be a protocol that is like the Bitcoin protocol determines the amount of Bitcoin and the way it's issued and the way the network works for the next 1,000 years. And that protocol was established on Pizza Day when it traded for nothing, and it hasn't changed, right? So like some small change to make it more secure, maybe, but you can't keep changing the protocol. That's the problem. If you change the protocol, then you've probably instantiated a security. And now the problem is, if it's a security, you're trading it illegally, right, on unregistered exchanges without a license to trade a security, and you haven't disclosed all the risk factors on the security. So it doesn't work as money, right? It's something different. If you want to create a software company and sell equity, then you do it pursuant to an IPO. Google did it, MicroStrategy did it, Microsoft did it, Oracle did it. There's an ethical way to do it. But it's not ethical and it's not legal to sell equity to the general public without a registration statement and without disclosing the risk factors. And it's not black and white. I mean, there's no gray here. I mean, I wish there was gray, but I mean, I don't see how anybody could look at it as being anywhere gray. I mean, if you actually take an objective view toward it, it does just happen to be extremely diffused in the world. There's a lot of people with it. They've got that going for them. Well, you've got a technical issue, you've got an economic issue, and you've got an ethical issue. So if you look at the ethical issue, the ethics are, it's an unregistered security and it's unethical, right? So a lot of people that have an objection, they just object to the fact that it's unethical, right? It's unethical to murder the entire ETH mining industry just because you want to, right? It's just not right. And it's unethical to sell something as commodity if it's secured. So that's the first issue. The second issue is, which is economic, is it economically sound? The problem with that is it's not economically sound because you don't have an issuance schedule and a protocol that's set in stone for the next 1,000 years. You do with Bitcoin. You've got block issuance out to 2140, and you've got a transaction fee model that will just go on, and it's not changeable. No one thinks they can change it. So you've got an economically sound protocol. With ETH, it's not, you can't make a 100-year bet or even a 10-year bet. I mean, the protocol changes every year. Like every time you hard fork, and it's not just there's a precedent for hard forks. There's a precedence for hard forks that make materially different changes to the monetary protocol. It keeps radically changing. And it means there's a small group of people that are going to make something up, and they'll just keep making it up. And they haven't made up what they want it to be yet. Again, like, what's the issuance schedule for the next 100 years? You don't know. That's because no one's made it up yet. So economically, it is not sound. And then technically, it's just too ambitious. The problem with the smart, it's cool, but there's like billions and billions of dollars of hacks. I mean, starting with you could see the writing on the wall. Have you guys read the Cryptopians? You should read the Cryptopians, right? It's the entire story, right? I mean, the network was hacked within, a short period of time after it was launched. And then it was hard forked, right? In an ethical lapse. And that's that difficulty bomb plus a pattern of hard forks continues to this day. So, it seems to me that if you look at the entire industry right now, yeah, the smart contract things are interesting, but they're just not technically sound. Right? I mean, like the Axie Infinity hack, how many hacks have there been? $15 billion worth of hacks over 2 years or something. So if your point is, yeah, this is interesting technology and it's inspired people, yeah. If your point is because it's interesting technology, you should invest in it or it should be allowed. Well, yeah, I think people should be allowed to experiment with technology, but like if you go back to the Wolf of Wall Street, just because you have an interesting idea doesn't mean you can run a boiler room pump and dump scheme and defraud the general public just because it's a cool business, right? There's a distinction between whether the business has value and whether or not the way you raise money is appropriate. So, I think that the world's full of technology companies that are innovating right now. There's a lot of private companies. There's a lot of public companies. There's a lot of people building stuff on different protocols.
So let me just pause here and say the point of this video is not for me to just FUD ETH and not for me to just attack it unnecessarily. As I've already stated, like I'm long ETH, and I once thought ETH was one of the only coins other than Bitcoin worth holding, but I'm just starting to get increasingly concerned as I try to remain as objective as possible. And it's okay to be long and strong, unless the story changes, right? What if you get a story change? Then you have to, as an investor, as a trader, you have to look at the story and say, would this be a long entry for me with the current story? Is this still a long? And so this is the only reason I'm doing this. I'm not trying to just FUD this coin and get the price down so I can buy more. I'm just saying I'm legitimately concerned about this, and I think other people should be too. Not many people seem to want to have this conversation. So the Ethereum Foundation has been mentioned a few times so far, and here we go, right? This is more concern for me.
Ether did not grow in value because people are paying for gas and to create crypto kitties, right? Ether grew in value because it became a reserve currency for this distributed central bank that circumvented the public securities offering process. And it was basically for people that said, screw the SEC.
So is there going to be an SEC Ethereum lawsuit? Quite possibly. I think people are underestimating that this could be a real issue. And if you look at the XRP price, what happened when SEC sued Ripple, then this could be really, really bad news. This is a risk that I don't think many people are taking into account. In addition, we've got the likes of Bill Hinman, Jay Clayton, the SEC, people at the SEC, all with enormous conflicts of interest. These people all hold enormous amounts of Ethereum. And what's crucial, so I'm going to play you half of this clip, and then we're going to talk about the disguised whales and why this is an issue as well.
Goes up on stage during this conference. At the time when he walks on stage, Ethereum is down 60% from its all-time high in January. Ripple's down, XRP's down as well. And he walks up and he effectively says, based on all of our analysis and all of this, heavy thinking and deliberation, all this stuff we've been doing, we think that Bitcoin is sufficiently decentralized to not be a security. So there's really no reason to apply the disclosure regimes and the requirements of the securities laws to Bitcoin. And it probably would have been fine if he'd have just stopped there. But then he says, and also for basically the same reasons, putting aside the fact that they had an ICO, putting aside the fundraising they did in connection with the creation of the project. So ignore the fact that they had an unregistered securities offering. We think now Ethereum is sufficiently decentralized, and therefore there's really no benefit to apply the securities laws to Ethereum.
And the money
He drops the mic, he walks off the stage, and the price rockets within the minutes.
So you can see that they've already come out and said that Ethereum was likely not a security, was most probably not an illegal security. But what they don't tell you is they were part of the early investors into this project. They were some of the people that bought huge chunks up of that 65% pre-mine that I showed you at the beginning of the video. This is starting to feel more and more like a scam coin, is it not? Again, if you think I'm way off here, comment it down below. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Are you okay with this? Now, let's keep going. ETHgate / the disguised whale identities, right, that Ethereum Joseph, this is Joseph Lubin, says on video, he's on record for saying that he could help to hide them during the Ethereum ICO. So these people and people at the SEC have worked with Joseph Lubin to help disguise the whales, right? Why would they do this? Well, the reason they would do this is because 60% of this coin was pre-mined and given to a very, very, very small handful of people. So I ask again, are you okay with that? Would you buy an altcoin if I told you they've pre-mined it and given most of it to a very small amount of people? What's worse is at least if it was an altcoin project that told you that, they would have been transparent about it. But they are disguising these whales on purpose to create the illusion that this coin is decentralized, and it isn't. Let's keep going, because in 2018, look at this, related party transactions in ETH, check it out. The disguised whales video was already known about all the way back in 2018 in a blog post. The author of this blog questions whether Joseph Lubin, this is Ethereum Joseph, right, co-founder at Ethereum, founder of Consensus, is disguising his holdings and transactions with a hedge funds he set up before the ICO. They pre-mined this coin and they gave it to hedge funds and they kept it disguised so that people wouldn't realize it was concentrated and held in the hands of a few. Doesn't this sound like a fiat currency scam to you? Are you not concerned about this? This is really, really concerning to me. If ETH ownership is or was more concentrated than he thought, would that change his view? Consensus, which Laura Shin reports is partly funded from Joseph Lubin's personal sales of Ethereum. So this goes back, this is a similar thing to what I showed you with Vitalik. They dump in this Ethereum to raise money, right? They're dumping personal sales of this pre-mined coin that they gave to a handful of people on the public, and we're still saying this is the future. This coin is brilliant. I'm not so sure. I think it might be time to start considering abandoning this project. Again, throw it down in the comments. If you think I'm wrong, if you can see a flaw in my logic, I'd love for someone to convince me that all of this is BS and that this is still the project I once thought it was. It might be interesting seeing the founders' trading activity. Will there be a limit on the amount a person can invest in Ethereum? Well, apparently not. Apparently the hands of few can control the many. It might fit with the above statement about disguising order flow with multiple pseudonymous accounts. So this is the hidden whales thing again. This is starting to be rather alarming, is it not? So let's have a summary and a review here. The price at the moment is bullish. I'm currently long from a spot position and I'm currently long from a trading position in the shorter term, as has been publicly disclosed and revealed on this channel, as I did this in real time on my channel. I've always thought that this is one of the few coins worth holding, okay? Since then, I've become increasingly concerned that this pre-mine is enormous and that we are moving to a proof of stake system. I'm also losing faith in the sense that the people behind this pre-mine, the people that have pre-mined a bunch of coins and given it to themselves and their best friends, are free to dump it at the top on holders in order to raise money for future ventures. The truth is that we are moving away from a proof of work system to a proof of stake system, and as Michael Saylor has told us so beautifully in this clip, this is a real problem because it creates economic uncertainty around the token. We don't know what the issuance is. We don't know how many further hard forks there will be. We don't know if this will cause a forking war where the miners won't want to all adopt this switch and this merge. Maybe they won't all be happy to do this. If they are, then are they going to be in a lot of trouble? Also, if we know that proof of stake, the people that have the most coins staked get the most dominance and influence and say over the network and the protocol, then how do you feel knowing that as we switch over to that mechanism, 60% of the supply is controlled by a handful of people that will be happy to dump it on you at the top, and that also will be lying and disguising their wallet so that you think this coin is more decentralized. At the same time, the SEC is telling us that the Ethereum was not a security categorically, and however it looks like it probably was, and they've since backtracked on this. We also know that they're disguising these whales and that they're working with the creator, and hedge funds are involved right from the get-go. So how do you feel about this? Am I way off here? I believe this coin can still pump in the near term. Do I think 8K is likely? I don't know, but I wouldn't rule it out. Anything can happen. My reason for creating this video was not to FUD this coin, not to try to just trash it, but to really just point at some facts and say, I don't see people talking about this. Do you see people talking about this? Did you know any of this stuff? Did you learn something here today? And finally, if this was a brand new project, would you invest in it? Would you invest in it? Are you okay with these fundamentals the way they are? If you found value here today, I'd appreciate if you could drop a like on the video, share this around, because this isn't a conversation that is being talked about, at least not from my perspective. If you hold ETH and you're okay with it, let me know. If this is making you concerned as well as me, let me know as well. In the meantime, for the regular sort of videos, they'll return for tomorrow. The TA from Saturday still stands, so if you want to know anything about TA and trades, go and see Saturday's video. And until next time, take care, all the best, cheers, bye.